It's funny, you did a take when you heard Rosengarden playing.
I love it. I finally came to me. I woke up, that was it.
Roberta.
That's the thing I did in Roberta. Let's begin. And
when was that? When did you first do that?
That was 1933 and 4.
Yeah.
1933 and 4.
You know, it would sound funny if somebody said, I wasn't even born then.
I wasn't either. Actually, it was just a vision floating out there.
It would sound funny if somebody said one of the greatest comedians England has ever produced, Mr. Bob Hope. And yet, I don't know how many Americans know that you were born over there.
Well, I've been over here so long. You know, I came over when I was 4 because I left England because I knew there was very little chance of me becoming king. Or little did I know I could go across the channel to Denmark and become queen. You're setting me up for this stuff,
weren't you? Yes.
But I love this because that was one of the great thrills of my career, being in that show in Roberta at the New Amsterdam Theater, standing backstage, listening to Russell Bennett orchestrations of Jerome Kern's music. And I'll come back to Broadway if I can get another setup like that. I really will.
That would be something if you came back to Broadway. You did Red Hot and Blue on Broadway?
Yeah, Freddie Lowe has been asking me to come back, and I would really, I'm serious about this. The next year I'd like to come back and do a show on Broadway.
That'd be sensational.
I really would.
Did you,
I love the stage. I just love it. I started there. I started on the stage, and I love it. And I love this, the excitement of this theater, you know.
The New Amsterdam, that's still down there on...
42nd, yeah.
W.C. Fields played there, Fanny Bryce.
Oh, yeah.
She played with all of us.
The bandbox. I played with Fanny in the Follies at the Winter Garden, Fanny Bryce. And,
did you get on well with her?
Loved her.
Yeah.
We used to be very great friends. Used to go and... She lived up on Central Park West. We used to have dinner together, you know. She's a very, very wonderful gal. Very funny gal, cute gal.
Can you remember England? Do you have any memories of...
No, the only thing I remember, I lived in Bristol, and I protected my dog one day, and I got hit with a rock right there. And it's still there. The
little scar there?
Little indentation there.
Protected your dog from
well, some kids were throwing rocks at it, you know, and I ran out to grab them. And, I got beamed. I think that's what helped me be a comedian. I've never been the same since. I really never have.
What other times in your life have you been injured?
Well, let me see. I've had a very bad accident when I was about 15. I was helping my brother in Columbus, Ohio, clean some lines. He was the electric company there. And I was up in a tree tying a rope on the tree after they'd cut it away quite a bit, you know, and they'd cut it away too much. And I rode the tree down, and this is what happened.
You mean...
Seriously, that's how I got this nose. They set my nose on the hospital floor.
And never put it back on your face, huh?
That's a true story. True story. And here, you see this? What I covered now with a little pen. See there? See this little scar here?
Little scar here, yeah.
See this one here?
Yeah.
You want to kiss me?
Well, I just want to walk like you.
No, it's true. And this is it. This is what I wound up with. They didn't give me a mirror in the hospital for about 7 weeks, and I finally got a load of it after it was kind of healed up, and I said, well, I guess I'll have to go with NBC.
So that's the story of the Hope Nose. I've never heard that told before.
No, that's true. That's true. I've got brothers who are fairly normal looking.
Could your old nose ever come back? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think Dean Martin's wearing it. I've got his old one.
What kind of a kid were you, though? Did you play games like other kids, cowboys and Indians? And
No. I was. I started very early as sort of a rat. I was a rat of the neighborhood.
Fighting a lot?
No, we used to have a gang in Cleveland. I moved to Cleveland, you know.
Yeah.
And I started going to the YMCA, and I was a pretty fast runner, and I had a buddy that could run faster than I could. Mm-hmm. And we used to line up all the picnics in the summertime, and we'd win all the races. You know, they had good prizes, $10, $5, $3. This is when I was about around that age, 14, 15. Mm-hmm. So there were 2 places. There was Euclid Beach and Luna Park. And we'd find out what time the athletic events were, an American Steel and Wire, you know, or the Butcher Picnic or something. Mm-hmm. We'd call up and we'd arrange the races, see?
Fix them?
Yeah, we'd call up and say, what time are the races there? And the guy would say, 3 o'clock. Oh, that's a shame. What do you mean it's a shame? Well, we wanted to come out and take pictures of the head of the athletic events. And if you could do it like at 4 o'clock at your place, we're going to Luna Park at 3, see? So we'd go to Luna Park. The guy said, oh, that's fine, we'll do that, because he wanted to get his friend. So we go to Luna Park and get in all the races, win all the money, then get on the streetcar and go to Euclid Beach and win all the money there.
And you scheduled them the way you wanted
We schedule them on the phone. Rats.
That is sneaky. It's a wonder you didn't.
My original name was Lucky Luciano.
It's surprising you became a performer, not an agent. It's incredible. Wait, are there any other performers in your family? Did anybody else become a? Is there an unsuccessful comedian in the family?
I think so. 2 or 3 of them laying around there.
Yeah.
No, all my kids take chops at me, you know.
I bet.
Yeah, they all have. They've been around me so long that they all like to lay it in and top me every once in a while. My oldest daughter has a devastating sense of humor. She works a lot like, let me say who. Anyway, she's very subtle and she's very smart. And she chops me up quite a bit because they used to listen to my monologues. I used to come down when I'd get this monologue for radio. You remember radio?
Of course.
It's that knob in the car on the left there.
Yes, I remember that.
Well, anyway, I used to bring the monologue down after, it only cost about $18,000, and I'd prune the whole thing down, lay it on the table, and they'd all be sitting there, the 4 kids and my wife, and they'd be talking, finally say, why don't you read the monologue? I say, well, I will, all right. How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob Pepsin and Hope, living by the skin of your teeth, and so-and-so and so-and-so, and she'd say, Kelly, sit up, will you please, when you eat? I'd lay the thing down.
Wouldn't even appreciate it.
Lay the thing down. Now they'd all look back at me after they got through talking and say, all right, read, sorehead. And
you climbed above this and went on to...
Yeah, went on. No, it was a great thing because by the time I got to the studio, they sounded friendly.
What? In those days on radio, that was live, wasn't it, the radio show?
It certainly was.
So if you blew a joke, you went right on.
Oh, it was fun. And you used to have all the tricks in radio because, if a joke didn't play, you used to go, kiss it, and all that stuff. But I loved it. There was no makeup, and you just walked out of the studio and you dropped it in there, and you walked. It was just beautiful.
What about
I didn't mean to move your career.
Oh, no, that's all right. Well, it's time someone did. Listen, what was I going to say?
You don't need any help, do you?
What was I, yes. What was I going to say? When I was a kid, they would always say, hey, did you hear about how Bob Hope got cut off last week or something? Like a censor would decide that a show...
Yeah.
Now, how could that happen? The show was live and the joke was already told.
No, but we had to submit the script to them, and they'd start screaming. And a funny thing about us, we used to do a preview on the night before. Very long preview, then cut it down. And it had a lot to do with the success of our show. Because we had a lot of writers. I found out after playing around and trying to get everything out of college humor, and switching jokes around, that it'd be nice to hire some writers, So I finally wound up with 12 writers, the greatest talent you ever saw. And we used to do all this stuff, and then we'd cut it down. We'd go to the agency and cut it down, and the next day we'd go on. Well, the censor had already heard some of the jokes, so he'd come in and say, you can't do that joke. And would you think that they would try and bring out a vice president from New York because you wanted to say, we want to help Kate Smith get her moon over the mountain? You can say that in church today.
That's right.
But that's one of the lines that we
really
went to the
was
mat with, And we were trying to do things that would get attention, and we'd all stand down the end of the hallway, and the censor would come down. And 12 guys say, oh, here comes old Dirty Mind. And he, can you imagine walking into the mouth of 12 writers? And the censor finally asked to be transferred to San Francisco.
And I doubt if there's any one of those jokes that you couldn't easily do now. And
nothing. We'd never do. Because in those days the standards were different. Yeah. Well, you would never think of saying jerk on the air. 25 years. Jerk was dirty.
That was considered
vulgar. Never say that, And all at once somebody slipped it in. Hey, jerk, saw that, and you were on the way. Now it's a straight line.
Used to be a 4-letter word.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing. Let us take a break. We have a message. We'll be right back. Stay right.